at 6 o'clock, your family would be able to sit on the stoops, and you had to sit on the stoop when you put your clean clothes on, and your parents was out there with you. You didn't run up and down the street because your parents would come out and also sit with you while you do that. They kept an eye on us, and it's so much in my head that I want to share with everybody. And the community that we lived in, this was called South Baltimore. Now it's called Risley Delight. Now it's called that. But back during that time, it was also called Washington Boulevard. And Washington Boulevard was where people went and shopped. They had shops up and down Washington Boulevard. Didn't have a lot of malls or anything like that. And the store owners would allow children to go get items, for the parents. My mother used to get gray mist stockings every Saturday for church. And I was so glad because I'm into clothes that I could do that. And I also into fashion because of that. My grandmother was my everything to me. My grandmother worked for London Fall back during that time. And she allowed me to sew buttons on coats at London Fall. She was able to bring the coats home for overtime. And that's how I began to learn how to sew. And I used to work for her. Not work for her. Meet her. Work for her. Be with her. And she would catch the number 11 bus on Washington Boulevard. That's why it was called Washington Boulevard. It was never called Pigtown. Pigtown was on the other end of Monroe Street with Washington Boulevard. I think I'm telling you right. And in this area that we live in, like the 900 block of Berry Street, wasn't called Berry Circle. It was just called Washington Boulevard. So where they got Pigtown from, because they used to run the pigs from the slaughterhouse that was off of Warwick on that end.
Oh.
So,
Okay.
They decided that they wanted this to be Pigtown. I tell people, no, I didn't live in Pigtown. I lived in Washington Boulevard in South Baltimore. Because Martin Luther King was part of a master plan. Because they had Last Stop Bar at Hamburg and Hamburg Street and Russell. It was called the Last Stop Bar. And the reason why I'm so familiar with that is because my father worked across Russell Street at Maryland Cup Company for 45 years. And he used to go there every day. He would come back across the street, Russell Street, and go into Last Stop Bar. That was the last bar going over towards 295. And so that kind of made him like a big celebrity. Because he had his job and he would be in the Last Stop Bar. And I know that they made crab cakes. Because on Fridays we got one for doing well in school and following directions and doing what my mother told us to do. So we were able to get a crab cake. And my mother and father had 9 children. We were never on welfare. Everybody in the whole neighborhood always had something to eat. And the ones that didn't have a lot to eat would get the block of cheese from social service. And when that block of cheese came, everybody got a cheese sandwich.
Okay.
There was something else that was special in the entire neighborhood.
Yes.
Get that block of cheese and some bread. And another thing that was special in this neighborhood, they had Nick's.
Yes.
Nick's restaurant. And my mother would get a Nick's dinner. And the lady just died who worked in Nick's. Only certain children was able to go in there and stand in the long line to get the food because the parents got the same meal every day.
Okay.
We would get two
Okay.
dinners because my mother had the children and she was able to split that up
Okay.
for everybody, and that was like a treat that we got from Nick's on Washington Boulevard.
Okay. When you say Miss Gennifer, the lady that used to work there,
What's her name?
Miss Stinchcombe.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember Miss Stinchcombe.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember.
And she became, I'm running around, she
No,
became
really?
one of the women of the women's group.
Yes. Yes.
And it's amazing that when you talk to her, she knew who everybody was.
Her memory was sharp as a tack.
Yes, yes. Because if you showed off in there, because you were around the corner, she would put you out, and then you had to go home without the dinner.
Right.
So the mother would get the dinner, but the children would get nothing because we showed off and was talking back to her.
Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful history down here because the white people and the black people, you bet not call yourself being prejudiced. It was some down here was prejudice. Matter of fact, when we moved off of Packer Street, we moved on Barry Street, and the man 2 doors from me had 2 daughters, Judy and what's the other name? I forgot the other name. Well, anyway, they didn't realize that my father had black children, you know.
Right, because they thought your dad was white.
They thought
That's
my
how
dad
he was able to get down here, get a house.
They thought he was white and everything. And so we had to move next door to him. And my father, he was an uneducated man. So we were able to get the house next door to us and everything, so my sister could live there.
Oh.
Because she was old enough to live there and she was getting married. So we had both houses next door to each other.
That's something, guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a great history, and like I said, if anybody in the neighborhood was poor, we really didn't know it, you know, or it wasn't discussed. It was a thing you had to help them.
Yes.
You had to help them. And South Baltimore, this is what this area is known for, was known as like a ghetto area and everything. But people kept their houses up. They were all mostly renters. We weren't a renter because my father bought this house for Mr. Erkey. We weren't a renter at all. And most of them, when they decided to do Martin Luther King Boulevard, which was Russell Street, a lot of people moved out of them houses. They were told that they had to go. And that's when this community did a massive change over.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. Well, that's important to know. See, we getting it live here, y'all, straight from the living room. We have an educator. Get into it. Okay. Miss Tucker, I'd like you to speak a lot about your entrepreneurship. And, you know, who taught you? Obviously, from the sounds of things, your parents taught you.
Yeah.
But I remember a little bit about it, you know, your business. If you could discuss that.
My very, very, very first business was a flower store.
Okay.
I wanted to sell flowers in the community. So I was able to go all the way out Ebenezer Road to
Okay.
buy my flowers wholesale. I found out. But that really, yeah, that wasn't my first. That yeah, to do the flower store,
Okay.
and let me get them out of my head.
Oh, sure.
My,
Take your
the
time.
flowers. I had the flower store.
Mm-hmm.
I had the T-shirt store
Mm-hmm.
where I used to. I made massive amount of money with my T-shirt store because I could design the logo.
Okay.
And my second one was I had a little bookstore going on
Okay.
and everything. And then I sewed.
Oh, yes. Okay.
I designed clothes,
Okay.
which was my best business.
Okay.
And I did so much. Oh God, I did a lot.
Yeah.
The bottom line is that you can make it anywhere with your gifts that God give you. And
Speak.
what he did for me was make me multi-talented. And what I came to the conclusion of, you never supposed to be broke if you're obedient to God. Because the gifts that he give you will take care of you if you are obedient to him. And before I finish, I'll probably tell you something else I did to be successful. And everything.
Yes. Speak. Yes.
Yeah. And because even where I live right now, in my house that I live right now, my mother died, and when she died, I made her a promise. I said, I will do this house. I will fix this house up with you, because this house used to be so cold.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went to school, Penn State. That's where I got my degree from.
Okay. Okay.
Penn State. And I went to Towson to take classes towards getting my master's.
Okay.
And I taught school at Bethel AME Church.
Okay.
I did that for like 18 years.
Okay.
And,
I knew you were an educator. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and what I'm saying is that living in this area, it wasn't a burden, it was a gift. It wasn't a burden. And I'm right back down here now,
Yes.
Trying to support and help young people. It's like Naima, to keep her motivated, to keep her going. Because guess what? We still had God.
Yes.
We still plant food, and we give the food away.
Yes.
And a lot of my friends that I grew up with used to call us nerds. Used to call us nerds. And used to tell me, you're always doing something. You're always doing something. I do it because I'm helping the young people so they won't ever forget where we came from. And no matter what they did to us in this community, they try to take it away from us. But the old people in this community was renters. They weren't homeowners. And a lot of them held this community together. So what you see now in South Baltimore, Pigtown, with the big pig up on the wall, and everything, which was Washington Boulevard, changing our community. Not because they really wanted, but they saw and they see that a lot of the people held on to it
Yes.
and didn't let it go. Even if they weren't homeowners, they were renters. And I know some of my real good friends, white people, were renting, and now the landlord had put them out, and they died. They died because they couldn't have made it no place else.
Yeah.
They put them, as
Right.
far as living. Miss Joyce, remember Miss Joyce?
I remember Miss Joyce.
Yeah, Miss Joyce was renting all those years, Naima, and her son took her out to community because of the landlord wanted her to move. That woman she had a little black and white issues going on, but she always but respect
Yeah.
the black people who took care of her
Yes.
and helped her.
Yeah.
And when they moved her out, she died.
Yeah.
They let her go. And it's a lot, like I said. And maybe I'll come back and tell y'all some more.
Almost definitely. Yeah.
Because it's so much to be told,
Mhm.
and you don't want it to be forgotten. Because this is what break down communities.
Yes, exactly.
Break them down. And anything that I can do to make sure Naima get what she need, I'm going to do that.
Oh,
You-
don't make me cry, Miss Decker. I'm telling you right now. I'm a big wuss.
Huh?
Oh, okay. So you spoke about your entrepreneurship. And the last question is, what your businesses. I know you have many more and there are things that you haven't discussed, but your businesses, if you could talk about what made you start them.
My grandmother.
Okay. She was your motivation.
She was my motivation, and like I said, always like expensive things. And you all probably forgot about Linden Lynn's and Hahn's Shoe Store and places like that downtown, right on the corner of Saratoga Street. I think it's Saratoga and Howard, where you were able to go and get you British Walkers and stuff. And she taught me that having my own money, that I could make it. And I used that concept by starting my clothes, and she taught me how to go and buy fabric so I could make my own clothes. And so I started making my own clothes. And my boyfriend was Charlie Duggar at the when I started dating him. And he used to tell me about what I had on. It didn't matter what I had on, or if it was inappropriate or the neck or something was showing, I could go upstairs and make me another one. And that's what I used to do.
Okay,
And
now.
when I started making them, I started selling them.
Okay.
And I had big people start saying, make this, make that. That's what started my business.
Okay.
When people used to see
Yes.
what I had, and I would always do two.
Yes.
And I would have one for myself. And so now in my life, I got overwhelming stuff because I never gave that up.
Okay.
I never gave my flower business up
Mm-hmm.
because when I had the store on Washington Boulevard, I was my own advertisement. I would let them see how pretty I would make it look. And then they wanted some too.
Yes.
And they would buy them for me. I started selling them and everything. And that's basically how I started it.
Okay.
Selling what I had reproduced for myself
Okay.
and making money.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Ms. Duggar. This has been a pleasure, and I really appreciate you allowing me and your space and allowing this time for me. It means the world to me. You just don't know. This lady fed me all. She wasn't taking no for an answer, and the breakfast was delicious. And we're gonna meet again, and we're gonna do another interview because, like she said, it's a lot. It's a lot of history to discuss and talk about. So until next time, peace.
Know your history, know your people, know your culture, and you'll always be free.
Amen.